Greetings and welcome to the Hope Recovery Podcast, hosted by Greg Schmalhofer. The Hope Recovery Podcast provides faith-based recovery messages to help you be successful in recovery and to grow in your faith as well. Hello and welcome to the Hope Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Schmalhofer, and this is episode number 55. So thank you so much for joining me today on the Hope Recovery Podcast. Today's podcast episode is called How to Prevent Relapse, and it is based on pop-up interviews taken during the recovery event called Recovery Day Lancaster, held this past September in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And this event, Recovery Day Lancaster, was a great event. And it was so great for me to be there with Hope Recovery and the Hope Recovery Podcast. We were able to hand out many free books and other faith-based resources, and it really was an exciting time, as many people shared with us how important faith was in their recovery, and many shared how glad they were to have access to even more faith-based recovery resources. The weather for the day was wet and rainy, and certainly less than ideal, but in the true spirit of recovery, every day you show up, and every day you be where you are supposed to be, and every day you do whatever is necessary to be successful in recovery. And the staff of Lancaster County Recovery Alliance and all the vendors did what they needed to do to still hold the event, even in challenging weather conditions. And it turned out to be a great event, reaching out to help people in different ways to find recovery resources to support and encourage people in recovery. And Hope Recovery was blessed to be a small part of this great event. During the event, I was able to take what I call pop-up interviews. These pop-up interviews are one-question interviews on a recovery-related topic, and the question for that day was simply, in your view, what are the one or two most important things to prevent relapse? Several folks indicated this was a great question and a question that everyone in recovery needs to consider at some point. And for many people, as they progress in recovery, how they answer that question might change perhaps over time. As I listened to the answers for these pop-up interviews, it seemed there were some basic themes that came through. Themes or principles that several people indicated in one way or another. Briefly, these three principles of how to prevent relapse were, first, to surround yourself with like-minded people, that you don't have to do it alone. There is help. Seek out support groups and brand new connections. And then second, change people, places, and things. If you stay around the same people, places, and things, you will end up back where you always were. Because if nothing changes, then nothing changes. And then three, bring God into your life in some way for new direction and a new hope. Internal motivation is powerful, especially a spiritual motivation. These key principles of how to prevent relapse are also very consistent with AA, as AA often speaks of how important it is to surround yourself with like-minded people and the dramatic impact it can have on your recovery and your life as well. AA reflects this in their book on page 430 when it says this: there is a solution. Together, we can live soberly, joyously, and freely. My life has been one of great joy. I am now 33 years old, and God willing, in 1 month I will celebrate my 14th sober AA anniversary. I am surrounded by loving friends whom I depend and who depend on me. And that's a quote from the AA book. And Narcotics Anonymous sort of also brings it together when it talks of the proper perspective on people, places, and things. When it says this on page 329, it says, "Since this time, I have worked on the most important relationship in my life, the one with my higher power, God. I have come to realize that no people, places, or things can ever make me whole, but the program of Narcotics Anonymous will." The phrase, "it's an inside job," was so difficult for this addict to understand, but it is so true. And that's a quote from the NA book. The Bible also has much to say about surrounding yourself with like-minded people and the impact or influence people of bad character can have on you. This passage of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33 is rather direct when it says, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character." The Bible is quite clear. Who you spend time with is important. As this passage says, do not be misled. Carefully consider who you spend time with. Carefully consider who you build friendships with. And ultimately, carefully consider who you surround yourself with. Because in recovery and in life, it does make a difference. As you listen to these interviews, keep in mind these comments are from people that are successful in recovery or are leaders in the recovery community. So I encourage you to listen closely to what they have to say. And now here are the pop-up interviews from Recovery Day Lancaster for 2023. So this is Greg Schmalhofer with the Hope Recovery podcast, and we're here at Recovery Day Lancaster, and I'm with John. John, thank you for joining me. So my one question for you, in your view, what are one or two of the biggest things to prevent relapse? One or two big things to prevent relapse.
Thanks for the question, and thanks for the opportunity. Yeah. So first of all, we work with we get folks running in times right from treatment. Okay. So they come to our sober living home right from treatment, and we find that the first couple of days, the first week or two, is very high risk.
Yeah.
Because people are often, their bodies are adjusting and their minds are adjusting from what they've just been through.
Right.
And so they're often very nervous, a lot of anxiety, a lot of trepidation. Some of them coming to a recovery house for the first time. So we really encourage our community to embrace them and help them feel welcome. Amen. So when that happens, we found that it's amazing. You see just a day or two later, a week later, they've settled in, they're comfortable, and now you get to meet the real person.
Yeah, I love that.
Those are the things that we do.
All right. John, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
You bet. Take care.
Sure.
So this is Greg with Hope Recovery, and we are at the Lancaster Recovery Day event, and I'm with Faith. So Faith, thank you for joining me. I have one question for you. Yes. In your view, what are the one or two most important things to prevent relapse? To prevent relapse, what would you say?
The first word that comes to mind is connection. I think it's all about getting connection.
Okay.
And the second one, first and foremost, the Lord is the one that helps you with it all. But
okay. So connection and the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Hey, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So this is Greg with Hope Recovery. And we are at the Lancaster Recovery Day event, and I'm with David. David, one question for you. In your view, what are the one or two most important things to prevent relapse?
Well, thank you, Greg, for that question.
Sure.
That's an interesting one because whenever we try to stay away from something, it usually means we go towards it. So I think a way to prevent relapse is to be blessed with the removal of even the concept and the thought.
Okay.
So we do that through being a new creation in Christ. Amen. We do that by no longer being that old self.
Yeah.
And so all that to say, that's not an easy task. We do that through getting up. We do that through making our bed in the morning, by greeting people, by loving ourselves. We do that through just the simple task of being human and giving ourselves to the Lord. So theologically, I believe in all hope and all possibility. I believe we don't do it by ourselves. So I believe that we just rest and we know that we are loved.
Amen. Well, Dave, thank you very much. So this is Greg with Hope Recovery, and we're at the Lancaster Recovery Day event, and I'm with Matt. And so, Matt, thank you for joining me. One question for you. In your view, what are the one or two most important things to prevent relapse? To prevent relapse, what would you say?
So, developing somebody's support system and making sure that it's a healthy support system.
Right.
And sometimes that support system may or may not be going back to where the person is from, because getting away from people, places, things, is super important. And ultimately that aftercare plan, what is going to be taking place, and recognizing relapse occurs days, hours, weeks before they might actually take that substance.
Right.
So identifying those signs like, hey, I'm not feeling so good, I'm starting to have these thoughts, and recognizing, hey, something's not right and I need to get back and I need to talk to someone, but that support system, whether that's home, family, friends, and then that really good aftercare program that is going to get them connected on whatever level of care they might need, whether that's a halfway house, recovery house, getting into the groups, just having some type of network for them to fall back on.
All right, Matt, I love it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here today.
You bet. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So this is Greg with the Hope Recovery Podcast, and we are at Lancaster Recovery Day, and I'm with Tony. Tony, thank you for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
So a quick question for you. In your view, Tony, what are the one or two most important things to prevent relapse? To prevent relapse, what would you say in your view, Tony?
The things that come immediately to mind would be adequate support.
Okay.
But I think underlying that, and this is a little different, but I think hope. Coming up with a way of instilling hope in folks that the supports that they get, or that there is hope for them, because I just talked to a number of folks that without that hope, it's almost like it's an open door to folks relapsing, going back to the people, the places, and the things that kind of got them in that situation. But hope.
I love that, Tony. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right, God bless you.
God bless you.
So this is Greg with Hope Recovery, and we are at the Lancaster Recovery Day event. And I'm with Jasmine. Jasmine, thank you for joining me.
Of course.
So one question interview.
Okay.
In your view, what are the one or two most important things to prevent relapse? To prevent relapse, one or two top things.
Your support system.
Okay.
The people around you. It's people, places, and things. You have to build up the people around you. You have to want it. You have to want that change. You have to have that desire. So I would say desire and your support system.
And your support system.
Yep.
That is wonderful. Jasmine, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, God bless you. So this is Greg with the Hope Recovery Podcast, and we are at Lancaster Recovery Day. And I'm with Scott. Scott, thank you for joining me.
Sure.
So the one question interview, in your view, what are the one or two most important things to prevent relapse? To prevent relapse, what would you say?
Support. You got to have support. I think the biggest mistake that I made, and a lot of folks make, is they try to do it alone. They try to do it by themselves. And I'm not saying you can't, but in my experience, you're a lot more vulnerable to struggling if you're trying to do it by yourself. So I always recommend that people explore what we have in our community, because we have a ton of resources out there, a ton. And so I always recommend that people explore and pick what they want. I mean, recovery should be a buffet, right?
Yeah.
So that's number one for me, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Scott, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Greg.
Oh, you're welcome. So this is Greg with Hope Recovery, and we're at Lancaster Recovery Day, and I'm with Zach. Zach, thank you for joining me. So the one question pop-up interview is, in your view, Zach, what are the one or two most important things to prevent relapse? What would you say?
Preventing relapse.
Yeah.
I would say in my eyes, is definitely changing your perspective on the people that you surround yourself with.
Right.
If you surround yourself with the same people, the same things that you've always been doing, you're going to end up exactly where you've always been. It's when you surround yourself by new people doing new things, new drive for new hope, is when you're really going to find to make a difference in your own life. And second is anything that can inwardly motivate you.
Okay.
Inward motivation is so important.
Yeah.
Exterior motivation can be removed from your life, but if you're interiorly motivated to do something different in your life, whether it's a new career or helping people or anything that you can find inside of yourself, not outside, will really help you drive yourself to finding a better way of life.
Zach, I love that. That's great. Thank you very much, Zach.
Thanks so
God
much.
bless you. You bet. As you listen to those brief interviews, each person presented their own unique perspective on what were the most important things to prevent relapse in their view. But it did seem many reflected some variation of these three things: to surround yourself with like-minded people. A recovery support community was absolutely critical. And to change people, places, and things, because if nothing changes, then nothing changes. And then also to bring God into your life in some way for a new direction and a new hope. A spiritual motivation coming from your heart is very, very powerful. These three principles are also captured in the passage from Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 to 26. When it says this, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." What a beautiful passage that sort of blends all of these three principles together. As I look at these recovery principles, these principles to prevent relapse, and as I consider the feedback from the interviews, from the AA and NA quotes, and from the Bible passages, I would summarize them with some honest changes as this. Number one, surround yourself with like-minded people that share your desire to be clean and sober and share your love for God. And then two, change your people, places, and things, because if nothing changes, then nothing changes. And then third, bring God into your life in some way, because God is the ultimate higher power, and He wants to help you in recovery and in life as well. Recovery is not easy, but it is absolutely possible. And to be successful in recovery and to prevent relapse, I encourage you to consider these three important principles for yourself. Consider how these apply to you and your recovery. Do not dismiss them quickly, but rather carefully consider each one for yourself. I encourage you to honestly and carefully consider this pop-up interview question for yourself. How would you answer this question? What are the one or two most important things for you to prevent relapse? And so, how do you answer that question for you to prevent relapse? That is what I have for you today. Thank you very much for joining me on the Hope Recovery Podcast. And remember, there is always hope with God. Take care, and God bless you all. That concludes the podcast episode for today. But if I may, I'd like to also mention that both of my books are now available in large print editions. So the Hope Recovery Devotional and the 12 Keys of Faith-Based Recovery are now both available in a 6x9-inch large print edition. And let me remind you to subscribe or follow the podcast so you are alerted when new episodes are published. For more information on faith-based recovery resources, please see the website at www.HopeRecoveryUs. And if there is any way I can help you or your recovery group or recovery ministry, please feel free to email me at HopeRecoveryUs@gmail.com, and I would be happy to talk with you further. And again, take care, and God bless you all.